Okay, what is today? It's the April 21st, 23, Friday. So, Lloyd, you want to welcome everybody so we can get started
welcome.
here?
This is Lloyd Allender and John Lee from St. Louis Real Estate Investors Association. Also got a number of our board. We've got Jim Choik and Laura Lee. Let's see who else is Kristen Lumen is on. Alex Wheatley doesn't have his camera on, but he's with us. You see Bruce Stotler, he's a former board member, and Laura Emerson, there she is. So yeah, got a lot of folks on. I see Eric's back. Eric's back from Slovakia, so he's with us today. Because I think he's logged on a few times from Slovakia when he was out of country. So glad to have everybody here today. No, we got a lot of things going on. And especially if you saw the notes about the speaker that's coming, John is, was it Maureen? Is she on? Yeah, there she is. Okay, Maureen is here. Okay, well, we won't keep her waiting any longer. She's got some great information she wants to share with us about the tenants' rights movement that's going on right now in the city of St. Louis. And I think she's looking for some input from us also. So as investors, and I said in our Tuesday meeting, we need to keep aware of what's going on, even if we're not investors of the city of St. Louis right now. Chances are something passes in one municipality, it will trickle down to other municipalities eventually. And so it's always going to affect us. So I think we need to be aware as property owners and landlords anywhere in the St. Louis metropolitan area, be aware of what's going on. So Maureen, I'll turn it over to you to go ahead and we'd like to hear what you got to say.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you for your time this morning. My name is Maureen McDonnell. I am a government affairs specialist and contract lobbyist, and I'm working with the St. Louis Association of Realtors to kind of formulate a response to the tenants' rights movement that we've seen across the country, but that has begun in St. Louis City. What I'd like to do is kind of just give you a quick overview of what that movement looks like, what we've seen in other cities, specifically Kansas City. They're a couple years ahead of us. They're a good case study for us. And then get your thoughts, feedback, interest level, ideas for information we might want to gather, or other groups we might want to reach out to who might, have an interest in this. So to kind of cover the tenants' rights movement in a broad way, that term encompasses a bunch of individual movements we've seen in various cities across the country, really the whole country, everywhere from San Francisco to Kansas City, St. Paul, Massachusetts, everywhere. And it can mean anything from kind of demanding safe housing and trying to get rid of some fees, all the way up to kind of the fringier side of their movement, which doesn't really believe in private property rights. What we've seen in Kansas City specifically, they managed to pass a tenant bill of rights at the end of 2019. And the Realtor Association out there was involved, and there was a housing alliance. They did manage to knock the effort down a little bit, take out some of the more forceful language. But what they did get passed was the following. So the language prohibits landlords from refusing a tenant solely on the basis of past evictions, race, gender identity, and other non-discrimination rules. It prevents landlords from entering an apartment without giving the tenant at least 24 hours notice of when and with whom they plan to enter. It requires landlords to provide prospective tenants with information about utility providers and past utility usage so that tenants can get an estimate of utility costs. It requires that landlords tell tenants about any deficiencies or property citations issued in the previous 2 years. It creates a rental housing assistance unit to keep tenants apprised of rights, and in some cases to offer relocation assistance to low-income tenants in emergencies. It prohibits retaliation against tenants who report violations, and affirms tenants' rights to organize and form tenants associations, so basically unions. In that first round, they were unable to get a right to counsel included or a ban on source of income discrimination. However, a right to counsel was later passed. A right to counsel was recently put before the St. Louis City Board of Aldermen, but it stalled at sign die earlier this week. So it's effectively dead, but I think we can expect to see it reintroduced, and it will have to go through the whole process again. As Megan Green declared at during her speech at the Board of Aldermen swearing in on Tuesday, that this was the year of the tenant. So where we're at in terms of the coalition, I recently came on board to help the realtors, and we're in early stages. We're trying to figure out who we need to talk to and what we need to know. But what we do know, based on the experiences of other cities and other realtor associations across the country, is that this is going to have to be a scalpel, not a hammer. The tenants' rights groups tend to be very passionate. They have great, compelling stories, you know, that really don't apply to responsible landlords or home providers. But they do have some horrific stories that play well in the media and before government officials. So we're going to be picking our battles and figuring out what policy we can live with and what policy we absolutely cannot. And that's where I would hope for involvement and feedback from your group. So if people have comments, questions, I would love to hear them.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did they do it? I know San Francisco is pretty horrible right now as far as homelessness is concerned. Did they do anything? You know, I understand, you know, the country is in a financial crunch. Let's leave it at that.
Right.
So since we're in a financial crunch, it kind of trickles down and down, down and down and down. And then when the, you know, a homeowner still has to make some money, still has to provide all of these things. But one thing I've heard consistently is the pricing of these places have gone completely through the roof. And I don't, you know, I have a mortgage, I don't know. But like I deal with people, I deal with regular people on a daily basis. I probably talk to about 50 to 70 people on a daily basis concerning their homes. And that's the number one thing they're always saying, like, these prices are getting outrageous. These prices are getting outrageous. Have anybody, you know, on any team, any side, decided like, okay, so X amount of dollars is way too much. You know, if you're paying, like, let's, for example, if this is a bit of a hyperbole, let's say if you're paying 5 times the average mortgage price, we can all agree that's pretty outrageous. If it's 5 to 6 times.
Right. I mean, there are many areas of the country that have either looked at or enacted some version of rent control. To the best of my knowledge, in Missouri, the legislature banned kind of rent control movement several decades ago. But we were talking about prices. Do you mean strictly rent? Are we talking utilities? Price of upkeep? Like, I mean, I think probably everything has gone through the roof, but what are you getting feedback on?
Really rent.
Rent, okay.
Rent and the, really, it's always rent and the idea of the property owners never actually keeping them informed on what, like, upkeeping their property. You know, like, yeah, that, let's say I rent a house and I rent from a property owner. The property owner is basically making it their responsibility to upkeep the house. Mm-hmm. And they're charging them outrageous prices. And I think those are the 2 things that I hear consistently is like, kind of like, this isn't fair, you know, yeah. Pretty much.
So charging the tenant to keep the house in working order. I got a request on the chat to kind of run through what was passed in Kansas City real quick. Let me run through that again. It prohibits landlords from refusing a tenant solely on the basis of past evictions, race, gender identity, and other non-discrimination rules. Prevents landlords from entering an apartment without giving the tenant at least 24 hours notice of when and with whom they plan to enter. Requires landlords to provide prospective tenants with information about utility providers and past utility usage so that tenants can get an estimate of utility costs. Requires that landlords tell tenants about any deficiencies or property citations issued in the past 2 years. Creates a rental housing assistance unit to keep tenants apprised of rights, and in some cases, to offer relocation assistance to low-income tenants in emergencies. Prohibits retaliation against tenants who report violations, and affirms tenants' rights to organize and form tenants associations. And Kansas City has also had a right to counsel passed as well. So are there groups that come to mind? Oh, and I'm so sorry, I wanted to circle back in terms of San Francisco. The other policy thing we've seen in San Francisco that is novel, that was not included in Kansas City, is they included a vacancy tax. So if your property sits open for, I believe it was 186 days out of the year, you would be taxed for it, or you would basically have to pay a fee to the city for that. That is currently in court. The Realtor Association sued over that.
Wow.
Yeah.
What would you think some things are, something that tenants could actually do to really get more on the same page? You know,
I'm hoping, we're going to take a slightly different approach to this that other cities have. And, we have the gift of having watched other groups navigate this. So I'm hoping to provide the whatever coalition forms, and right now it is the realtors in the housing or in the apartment association, or as a resource, and like let us help problem solve this, because we obviously all have skin in this game, and outside of the extremes, we all have the same goal. We all want the system to work. We want safe housing. We want property owners to be able to make money off of the properties they're renting out. We should be able to come to some sort of agreement on many things. So I'm hoping to start the conversation with the tenants groups once we have a better idea of who is within the coalition, so they can help themselves, but also we can help them problem shoot.
and I just read in the comments, what's the purpose of the?
So basically to keep landlords from waiting for a perfect tenant, I think is the purpose of the vacancy tax. They want to, I'm guessing if you ask them, it would be about addressing the homelessness problem and getting people into properties quicker. Obviously 186 days out of the year that's not a ton, right? If you're renovating, or if it's a down economy, we're not talking about keeping the unit open for years. We're talking about half the year. So I think it's mostly to kind of force the landlord's hand, as they know they're enacting these restrictions and making eviction a little bit more difficult. It might be the tendency of property owner to wait until that perfect tenant shows up. And I think they're trying to speed the process along a little bit.
I also think it's a little bit of greed on both ends.
Oh yeah, these taxes are not small. It's like $1,500 for an 800 square foot unit. It's not little. There's definitely some greed involved.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else has any comment on it. Yeah, I see the not being able to use past evictions as a reason for turning down an application. That's one of the first things I usually state when on my first phone call with a potential tenant. Have you been evicted? Have you gone through a foreclosure? Those kind of questions are what, I don't even usually set up a showing if I got something like that in a recent history. Now, there's been cases, where people gone through medical bankruptcy and those kind of things that I work with, and they've turned out to be great tenants. But in general, just a recent, eviction for non-payment is usually a bad sign.
Right. And we've seen other efforts to not allow the use of a criminal background as a reason to reject a tenant. It's, the movement is all over the place in terms of things that seem reasonable to things that I'm not sure how they work in reality, the policy doesn't align with reality.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with Lloyd here. I mean, like, I understand the discrimination part of it because stereotypically, nobody wants to deal with a criminal. But if you've recently had I'd like to know if you just lost your place because you couldn't afford it, or if you just lost your place because you're at a bad time. I'd like to be able to ask that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and even criminal background, the what that person got in trouble for might not be entirely relevant, but it might be very relevant. So it's difficult to figure out if there's just a ban on using that information, how to operate when you're weighing your liability.
Well, and if I may add some input on the criminal side, I live in a middle-class neighborhood, and we have a good handful of properties that are rental properties. When I first moved to the state, I lived in 2 different rental properties in this very neighborhood. I know the perception that people have, the owners, the people that live here, about the trouble of renters. They complain all the time about renters. They don't care about the house. They don't take care of the yard. They're trouble. And as a landlord, if you are placing renters in your properties, whether it's middle class or on the lower end, where that's mostly what I own, is on the lower end, working class, single moms, very low income, some of them on Social Security benefits. The people that live in that area, they like landlords even less if we're placing trouble in these houses in their neighborhoods where they live. So yes, if I run a background check and somebody has a criminal history where it's assault, we might talk to them about it and find out, okay, that was 20 years ago, or not that far. I don't think it shows up, but we may have a chat with them about it, try to understand it. What was this situation? But we're going to be liked even less if we're placing tenants in these homes surrounded by other families with their children. They don't want us putting people they don't want us renting to people like that. We're bringing trouble into the neighborhood. So it's an issue. I think they're reaching out to the voters. There are a lot more voters than landlords, and landlord isn't always looked at as a positive word. We're right there along with politicians on the scale of people that people like to think about, when the positive feeling people get when they hear landlord. So that's a real issue. It's also a bit of an issue with the evictions. We have rented to people who've had evictions before after we talked with them about it to try to understand the situation. And then we've had people with like multiple evictions and we're like, I'm sorry, we can't. You have a history of not paying your rent. And not only that, you've not tried to pay any of them back. That's just placing another person who's likely going to get evicted again because they can't manage their finances. And it all sounds nice and the people like hearing it, but it just creates more trouble. It creates more outs for people if they think that there's no recourse for those issues. I can still rent a place even if I have a criminal history and I've gotten evicted multiple times. They can't deny me for that. So it's less trouble for them too. Not saying it's going to encourage it, but if we weren't stopped by the police and ticketed for speeding, would we not speed? So.
Right. I think those are all really great points, Melody. I mean, it's just really nuanced and it's situational. And I think the way this legislation typically appears, it's a pretty one-sided perspective. It's not thinking about the liability or the costs involved to the landlords. You can say we don't want any criminal background checks, but if you're a landlord and you have a building with a single mom and kids, and then you have to move in somebody who has a history of, he's a registered sex offender, that's liability. Like you can't do that. So it's not drawn to consider anybody other than the people who are attempting to rent. It's not even considering the other renters. It's just strictly about getting in then, like taking down the barriers, which some of those barriers, yeah, there might be situations that there shouldn't be a barrier, but we got to think about it in a more nuanced way than just you can't use X information point blank. That's too broad, I think.
Yeah, I would switch it. I would try and do something like, if you're a multiple time offender, like if you're abusive and you got multiple charges of abuse, that's a red flag. But anybody can do anything one time. People make mistakes.
Yeah.
But if it's multiple and consistent, that's a major red flag.
Yeah, so kind of narrowing to repeated offenses and repeated evictions, things like that. Maybe that's something to think about.
But then keeping in mind that a lot of landlords, a majority of them are individuals. So the more legislation you put, the more rules that you place on all of these individuals, it makes it a lot more difficult to rent properties out, which is why in areas like San Francisco, where they've placed a lot of rules and they've placed things like rent control, I'm not sure if it's in San Francisco, but there are areas in California and New York that do that. It's why it costs more. It doesn't make it cheaper. Putting rent control on, it either costs more or it reduces the availability of rental housing. People in New York City lose money on the properties they've had for a really long time because of rent control and the legislations requiring that people can stay there and their families can renew the lease later and they can stay for a really long time. As a landlord association, I think that these are the kind of discussions that we have. We get together and we talk about these things. We talk about how we've had our other lawyer, is it Kathy, come on and say, hey, landlords, please remember, if you evict a tenant or you go take them to court and they pay you back, make sure you register with the court that they've paid back their debt so that any new landlord can see that they've made good on their debt and are more willing to rent to them. These are the kind of things that we're trying to do as landlords, but having the government come in and enforce all of these rules on us without them understanding the effect. They don't own property. Many of these politicians that try to put these rules in place, they really need to be handed a few rental properties for a while and then come back and come at us with these rules, because then they find out that there's a lot more issues to it than they recognize.
I think that's a big part of what this effort's going to be, is getting a couple messengers who feel comfortable and really sharing the experience of being a landlord. Because I think, as you mentioned earlier, when people hear landlord, there might not be the most positive associations initially, because most of us have had a landlord, most of us have not been a landlord. So we don't understand the complications and the margins on it. So I think getting some of those stories and explanations as to the challenges posed and how, most people are not slumlords. They're just trying to run a business. They are trying to build wealth in what is traditionally a very safe place to put money in this country. And there's no real malintent here. So yeah, I think getting the point of view of the landlords is going to be crucial.
Melanie, I really like what you said. I really like what you said, Melody. I do think that sometimes it seems like it's starting to be criminalized to be poor. And it's like the unspoken thing, it's kind of unspoken of, but a lot of things, it seems like it's decriminalized to be poor. And it's not like the homeowners that are doing it. It's, it's just a stigma thing that's overall going around.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean, but I can tell you that a majority of the properties I own are either people who are poverty and low income level. So I feel you. It's a market that a lot of people don't want to get into because it concerns them. They're scared of it. They're a lot more comfortable with the middle class homes, even if they're not making money, even if they're losing money every month because they have a mortgage with interest and their tax returns show a loss every month. But because eventually they feel like they're going to be able to sell the house and make some profit when they sell it. But our rentals are all in the low income area. It is higher risk. it's higher risk than the middle class market in some ways. And it's tough. I grew up poor myself. I lived in Section 8 housing. A little bit different for me, the town that I was in, it wasn't like St. Louis. It wasn't as big of a town. And I had exposure to a lot more people. I mean, I had a single high school in my town. So I wasn't going to a high school full of other kids that lived in Section 8 housing. It's a very different world when you grow up around other people and you recognize what the world outside of that is like. It's tough, and it's tough to get out of it. Yes. And particularly in these big cities where there may not be a lot of opportunity either. But it doesn't matter if you're poor or if you're middle class. A lot of people don't understand what it's like to own property until they do it themselves. And they just don't. For example, we have properties in another area where there had been a huge winter storm that I think had caused a lot of trees to fall or something like that. And the politicians in that area were trying to pass laws using about being absent landlords. And so many tenants were upset because all these trees fell and their landlords weren't getting taken care of it quick enough. And that, well, no, there's no amount of people, there are no amount of contractors in the city that could have taken care of any of that quick enough. There's no way. We called everybody and everybody was busy. It was a war zone. Literally, the guy I called said, it's a war zone out here. We are working day and night trying to get all these trees cut down. And same here in Houston. A few years ago, we had a storm where pipes were bursting everywhere. You could not get your pipes fixed for love or money. Tenants who have to wait like 2 weeks to get their pipes fixed will be complaining on and on and on about how terrible their landlords are. Whereas homeowners, we can't get our pipes fixed for 2 weeks either. But we know that we can't do it. There aren't enough plumbers in the area to get it fixed.
A lot of good points here. And appreciate all the insight. Maureen, what can we do as a group of landlords and our organization to support your efforts, which we appreciate very much, and get more involved with what's going on? Is there a place we could go? Is there something we could do
Sure.
to help with what you're doing?
Yeah, I think a couple things. If you're interested in learning more about this, John, you have my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me. The other thing is, if you think there's information we should gather or other groups we should talk to, I'd love to know that.
Thank you very much. We will do that. I think we'll group. We have a board meeting coming up on Tuesday with our board here, and we can talk more about this and maybe put some of our heads together. But if there's anything you can think of also, Maureen, please feel free to reach out at any time, and we'll be happy to spread the word, because this is something that concerns us all. And it needs to be addressed right now, and we really appreciate you being in the forefront of this. So thank you.
All right, thank you all so much. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, we do, and we'd like to know if this does come to a public hearing or something. Now, please let us know, because I think we were one of the groups that was instrumental in kind of stamping out the St. Louis County had a proposition to do licensing of landlords a couple years ago. And our group, along with a number of other landlord organizations, property owners, showed up and were able to divert that action by the St. Louis County Council. So,
Great, thank you. I'll make sure I reach out.
okay,
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, is there anybody else who wants to hang on for our regular Friday networking, haves and wants, whatever you got? We're here to hear it. Oh, John, do you want to go ahead, before we get started? Do you want to say a few more words about next Saturday's event on April 29th?
Yeah, let's see here. My computer died, so let me find it.
Oh, okay.
One of them.
I noticed you switched computers.
Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, we have the Real Estate 101 coming up next week, which let's see, there we
April
are.
29th. Yep.
April 29th. Okay. Well, some of the things we're going to talk about, among other things, but just some of the things I'd like to mention here are we're going to talk about, we're going to start off with some goals and then some different strategies. As you probably know, there's a lot of different strategies. Landlording is just one of the small things that we do here as far as real estate investors. There's a lot of other things, and we're going to talk about some of them, such as quick turn, wholesaling, flipping the real estate, even bird dogs. A lot of us start off like that, or even hire bird dogs. The hold and control, which is kind of what we were talking about today, which would be like long-term rentals, landlording. We're going to talk a little bit about doing it yourself or hiring a property management company. We did, if you were able to join us last Tuesday on the 18th, we did have Soto Property Solutions with David Soto and Stacy Lowe. They talked about some of the advantages of hiring a property management company. And one of the things that I could say just on what we were talking about today, there's a lot of things they stay up on that us maybe smaller landlords don't have the opportunity to stay up on, because they stay involved with the legislation and all the stuff like we were talking about today. Also, we're going to talk about some short-term rentals, house hacking, short sales, BRRRR method, note investing, some other ways of passive income, creative deals. We're going to get into some creative financing, seller financing, some lease options, subject to deals, joint ventures, even seller carrybacks, which you don't see too much of anymore. I used to see a lot of those 20, 30 years ago, but not too much now. With different ways to find properties that some of us investors do that are not traditional. Some of the due diligence we need to go, that we need to take care of. Also some property checklist, just a small list of some things. And we're going to have some people that are board members and some others talking about some of these different aspects. Also, we're going to talk about funding, and we're going to get into some reasons for insurance and some of the ways to protect your investments. Some of the documents we need to use, which contracts, and then some clauses, some things that even us experienced investors overlook sometimes. Also, we're going to get into building your team and scaling, continuing education, some mentors and coaches, and why it's so important to stay with organizations such as where you're at right now in networking, because that's one of the things that, it's easy to go off on your own once we get, once we get out there and we know a little bit. A lot of times we get away from the groups, but by staying with the group, I know for myself and some of the rest of us here, that's the way you stay up on what's going on, just like what Maureen filled us in on today. So that's some of the stuff we're going to talk about and why it's so important. We call it a real estate investing 101, but it's actually could be, it's not only for the, for the beginners, but it's also going to be for the, for part-timers, which a lot of us still have full-time jobs, and then some of us that turn into lifetimers also. So there's a lot of stuff that we can gain by staying involved with these kind of workshops. And that's what we have coming up. We do have a handbook we're going to give out with it. And I think we got lunch too. I don't know, Lloyd, you want to talk more about some of that?
Yeah. Let me say, I can talk about the lunch part. I've been contacting a couple of contractor caterers to go through the, because we had the one used last year for Kevin Chartel's Saturday seminar is no longer in business. So we had a couple more possibilities. They added some new caterers, and I'm looking through that and got some great options for some sandwiches, cold cuts, and nice, well-rounded box lunch, along with coffee in the morning. We'll have coffee and soda and water, plenty of refreshments to keep everybody hydrated during the day. John always stresses to stay hydrated, but that'll be good too. We're in a smaller room than we meet on our regular Tuesday meetings at the Shriners. We're in the Gateway room. Just around the corner, same level, just around the corner from the Gateway room. So if you come to one of our Tuesday meetings, you know where to park. Just come in the side door instead of come in straight into the Oasis room. So no, it'll be a great Saturday. I'm looking forward to it. Okay. Let's see, is Laura, where's Laura? Yeah, Laura Lee is still on here. Do you want to go through our little disclaimer before we get started with our networking and And sharing of contractors and
Sure. Let's see. Good morning and welcome, everyone. First, I'd like to do a bit of housekeeping. Please feel free to unmute yourself when it's your turn to speak. Please be mindful of everyone else by muting yourself while others are speaking. You're welcome to put any contact information that you want into the chat. We meet here to share deals, look for deals and solutions we have and need with our real estate. We are not your financial advisors, attorney, or accountants. We do not endorse or recommend any specific solutions or contractors here. You're advised to do your own due diligence to your own satisfaction before you invest. The first Friday of each month is Ask the Attorney with Ms. Catherine Davis. Our meetings are typically recorded, so only share what you want others to know.
okay, thank you, Laura. Okay, I don't know who wants to start it out today. I want to give it a shout out to Melody and Terrell for both giving some good input to Maureen's presentation, because I know that's what she was looking for. She's working for the St. Louis Real Estate Realtors Association. So, and she wants to get some other opinions from landlords, property owners, and that what we think. And so, thank you for speaking out on those issues. Okay, who's got something they want to share with us today on our networking? Tell.
Go ahead. Somebody unmuted.
Terrell started to say something. Go ahead, Terrell.
This will be very quick. It actually affects every one of you since you're all home owners and everything. This summer, well, the end of the spring is going to be very bad for flooding. Please make sure, I'm not an insurance agent. Please make sure you have flood insurance. Montana recorded a record high of snow. It has not melted. And the second that it does, it's going to go into the Missouri River, and then it's going to go into the Mississippi River, and it will crest here. It's not a question about it. A lot of areas will flood. That's all.
Very good advice. Yeah, and we do have a tendency to flood, being the confluence of the two greatest river systems in North America. Yep. Thank you for that warning. Okay, David, go ahead.
Yeah, I had some. Hey, Terrell, thanks for that, because I think everybody on here ought to just call their insurance agent and double check that they really have what they think they do. Because I did a short sale on a house once with this poor old lady who had a subdivision where the city of O'Fallon had very terrible drainage systems in the subdivision. She was at the bottom of it, and rainwater came down the subdivision hills, and a tree limb hit her basement window. Okay, and then all the rainwater that was coming over the street went into the window and literally filled her basement up, because it was not a walkout basement. And she had a full swimming pool in her basement, stepped in the water on her first step into the basement when she heard this noise downstairs. So double check what kind of insurance you have, because you say, well, I'm not in a flood place because I'm not close to the rivers. That's not necessarily what they classify those are. So really call them and ask them about that. What do I really have? Is it backup from the sewer? Insurance? Do I have actual real flood insurance? And you can actually get flood insurance really, really cheap when you're not in a flood zone. Okay. And so, I don't know what a sump pump failure, I don't know those. So great, Terrell. I appreciate that advice, because I've seen different situations that actually end up with, your house full of water. So good thing there. I'm on here. I want to ask, I'm doing 2 rehabs, one in Florissant and one in St. Charles City. And so I'm looking for recommendations for a carpenter. So both homes are going to have a finished basement. They're unfinished now. So I'm specifically looking for carpenters that can frame the walls, and then any drywall people that can do the drywall. for not really like looking for a general contractor necessarily, but a carpenter that can frame the whole basement, and then a drywall, person that can install mud tape and make it, paint ready, lots of sheets, not just like some guy that handyman that does some repair drywall stuff, but somebody that really does the drywall as a professional. So I'll throw my full contact info in the chat box on here, but email me, whatever method you want to contact me on that in there, go ahead and do that. And St. Charles City and Florissant is where I need them at and everything. So thanks a lot, guys.
Okay,
David, could you verbally mention your contact information too for anybody that might want to get it from the replay, please?
Oh yeah, I forgot, John. Sorry about that. I've been so busy for a while and haven't been on this for quite a while because I've been so many people doing short sales and so busy in rehabs. Yeah, so it's David Randolph at 636-685-2990. Looking for a carpenter and a drywaller for 2 houses, finished basements in Florissant and in St. Charles City. Thank you very much.
Thank
okay,
you.
thank you.
Hi, I'm Hunter. I'm new here. I thought I'd just introduce myself.
Hey,
I am in Utah. We're also worried about flooding because we had record snow too. So I'm a new investor. Excited to get started on my journey. And I really appreciate John for inviting me here and letting me be part of your group. It's awesome to hear this kind of stuff in this conversation. So thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you for showing up, Hunter. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, John.
Thanks. Thanks.
This is awesome, man. This is great.
Yeah, great. Yep, please come back.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I
you're
will.
welcome.
Friday, man. I got it on the calendar.
Mhm. Yeah, we have people from all over the country. I see Laurel's with us again today. She's out in this Northern California area, right? I recall. Yeah, you're still muted, Laurel. Yeah, you're still muted. Okay. Well, while she's working on that, anybody else from out of town? I said, didn't realize. Who's that? Melody. You said, are you in Houston? You mentioned Houston in your comment.
Yes, I'm Houston.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that either.
Yeah.
Welcome to see you from Houston.
Thank
You guys are more global than you thought, huh?
Here, okay. Laurel's got herself unmuted. How you doing, Laurel?
I do. Thank you so much. I'm fine, thank you. I enjoy this meeting very much. I am in Northern California, and last night I went to my very first local REIA meeting. It's local, geographically in general, but I mean, I do drive an hour to get there and an hour to get back. But I finally did get there, and it was great to meet the guy who organizes it, Michael Mangiello, and to meet a few people. Very interesting, I would say that the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area where I am is, I guess, well, first of all, it's very big. It's, and when somebody comes to a meeting, they're coming from all over. So, I mean, there are people who drove 2 hours to go to the meeting or more. And, but anyway, I just want to say that. But I've been on Zoom in different states like St. Louis. I've been to a Florida Zoom once or twice, Southern California, LA, and what they call Inland Empire, Riverside, California, and Ohio. So it's great. I know people all over the country, but I don't know anyone where I'm living. And anyway, I'm new. I've never done a deal. I've not been part of a transaction, and I'm still trying to find my path, and very cautious about going out there when I don't know what I'm doing. So, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thank you for letting me speak.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you, and I hope you gotten some good information out of our group. And now that you're connected with a local group, maybe you'll make some some better connections there and be able to get your first deal done. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I see Amber's got her hand up. Amber, go ahead.
Hey, Lloyd and everyone. I have two things actually today. So I am selling a property. I mentioned it last week, and there is a Craigslist listing up. I'm gonna post it here in the chat. You can see, I think I posted maybe 2 or 3 pictures on the actual listing, but I have several more. I do have people who are also interested in it, but I wanted to provide it to this group as well. It is my property. It's not under contract with anyone else. So if you are interested, it is it's fully gutted, so it will be a complete rehab property. But it's a great buy and hold, if you will. I'm only asking $10,000 for the property. We can close in 30 days if that is what you would prefer. So just give me a holler. My email address is agrayproperty@gmail.com. And like I said, I have plenty of pictures if you want to see more or go view the property in person. That's fine. I think I actually have a video as well. So if it's something that you don't live local to St. Louis and you're interested in it, I could probably send a video as well. So that's one. And then the other thing is I am interested in looking for a commercial property, more so a rental upstairs. And then I would like a building to do a business downstairs. I am not specific to the area just yet. I've seen some in Olivet, Central West End. Let me start over. Let me say city is where I would prefer to have the building. Size, maybe about 2,000 square feet. So if you have something that you're interested in getting rid of that meets that criteria, also send an email to me as well.
Okay, very good. And if you've got a commercial building in the city and you're looking for a property that needs rehab, maybe you could do an exchange with Amber. So, because there's nothing we're going to be talking about it on next Saturday or a week from Saturday is Section 1031 tax deferred exchanges. So.
Absolutely. I'm interested in that as well. It doesn't have to be, so I am asking $10,000 for the property I mentioned for sale, but if you have something you want to trade, I'm open to that option as well. So let me know.
Here we go. Okay. Okay. Melody, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, since Amber brought up her property for sale, I'll bring up mine. And I'll also put it in the chat. We've got a property in Jennings, 63136, that we're selling for $35K. 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 672 square foot. It has a full basement, which is not included in the square footage. It is occupied with a tenant since May of 2020, paying $600, and landlord pays sewer and trash. And I'll put, you can reach me by calling or texting 832-465-5226.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, anybody looking for a house in Jennings with a tenant already in place? Get a hold of Melody. Okay, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. Okay, very good. All righty. Who's got something else? Who wants to be next?
Yes, can you hear me?
George, yes, we heard you.
Yes. My name is George Cook. I'm with Cook Realty and Associates. I'm here locally in St. Louis. Out driving, working now. My first time attending the meeting. I've been looking for a real estate association to become a member of. One of the things that I'm looking for now is I'm looking for either a mortgage broker or someone that has hard money. I'm getting deals that I need funding for. My information is George Cook. My number is 314-496-8200. 5904, or you can email me at gcook03@gmail.com.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'd like to refer you to, we've got a lender that's one of our sponsors, goes to our regular Thursday, third Tuesday meetings from JM Realty Capital. You can find them on our website. We've got a link to them, their website and a phone number on our website at STLREIA.com. One of our sponsoring members, just like David Soto from Soto Property Solutions. So,
Hi, I want to introduce myself to some of you who know me. I'm Carrie. I am, my last name's Curley. I'm with New Frontier Bank. I am a commercial lender and work with investors. I love this group. It's a great group to belong to. I'll put my information in the chat. Is anyone looking for some funding? I'd be happy to help. Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. Could you also say your contact information verbally, please? And then I know George looks like he's driving there.
Yes,
So,
sorry.
We could be happy to share that later, but maybe, he could watch the replay, but it always helps because I know I can't always get everything written down and timely or copy out of chat. So
Sure,
appreciate that.
absolutely.
And Carrie will be there also next
Yes.
Saturday to talk about
Yes.
funding. She is one of
Yes.
our special speakers. So just make sure that you guys put that on your schedule. So Carrie, if you don't mind mentioning that.
Sure. My name is Carrie. I'm with New Frontier Bank. My phone number is 636-940-8740, extension 9121. And my email address is carrie.nerley@newfb.com. And you can see it as my name shows up there. So that's me. But yes, looking forward to the 29th. Thanks so much, John, for the offer to do that.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie. And I'll give a shout out to New Frontier Bank. Yeah, they helped me. I've still got some existing commercial real estate loans with them. Helped me expand my portfolio back in 2009 through 2012. When a lot of other banks had REO that they were trying to dispose of, I helped them, and New Frontier helped me help them out disposing of those REOs. So very good. Okay, anybody else had any services that landlords or property owners or rehabbers might need? You're willing to want to talk about today?
I'll go ahead and offer my services. This is Terrell with Restoration One. We specialize in water mitigation. So any type of flood damage or water damage, we can handle. Any type of fire damage, we can handle. We are also certified for mold remediation. We're 24 hours. If you're interested, give us a call. We give free estimates. My contact number is 314-873-2391. Again, we're 24 hours. We're just here to help. Even if since you guys are property managers, we work with property management companies very often. So if let's say you have a hoarder that gets evicted and they leave everything in there, we'll happily come in. We'll take care of that for you. Don't have anything to worry about.
Okay, thank you, Terrell. Okay, who else? Anybody else have any services for property owners, landlords, rehabbers?
Oh, hey, Lloyd, I thought of something.
Yeah,
It's not a service, but it was just kind of cool. I was on a podcast recently by this guy out of Las Vegas that's like rehab 400 houses, owns over 200 doors, and is like big social media kind of person. And, he did like all this by the age of 35 on it and stuff. And he actually had me on his podcast to talk about short sales And so I'll post that link in the chat box if anybody wants to go listen to my interview on the current state of the real estate market, foreclosures, and what's happening now. It's a pretty good in-depth interview. He did a great job. I mean, he's a real estate investor like us. And so he asked very good, smart, tough questions. And so it was really a fun interview for me because I love short sales. So I'll put that in the chat box if anybody wants some weekend entertainment and stuff. But I'm not very photogenic, but I do know short sales and stuff. And actually, by the way, just as an update for the group, the banks are still dumping the houses, Lloyd. People, I don't think, realize it at all. We just closed yesterday on a house in Florissant for $32,000. Okay, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2 full-car garage, full basement. It's unfinished, of course, in Florissant. Probably the ARV is probably going to be 220 to 250. Nice neighborhood, and we bought it from the bank for $32,000. Incredible. The banks are dumping the houses out there right now, and so it's a great way to buy houses right now.
Yeah, good to know. Yep. Let's see, I saw something in the chat here. Cipriano's looking to team up with a structural engineer on a residential deck project. And he didn't put a phone number, he just put his email there. Is he still on, or did he have to get off? Oh, there he is.
I'm still, yeah, I'm still on. I'm sorry, my mic was off, but yeah, I'm just, I work on residential projects here and there as an architect, but there are times where I need to talk to a structural engineer for certain items. Yeah, if anyone has any suggestions for a structural engineer, that'd be great. But more importantly, I'm still looking for a multifamily, but I'm focused on the Pattonville School District for family reasons or for school reasons. So if anyone knows of any multifamilies in Pattonville, I'd love to know.
Okay, you want to give your phone number out loud so anybody else can contact me?
Sure.
Or your email address, whichever you like to be contacted?
Yeah, my email is in the chat, but it's also cipriano.medina@gmail. And then my phone number is 314-504-4809. I'll put the number in the chat as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. So, yeah, anybody else that might have worked some rehabbers that might have need for a structural engineer when you taking a wall down, or before you take a wall down, get some structural advice on it, might be able to help them out.
Okay, Tiffany Barnhart, you have a thing in the chat on, you have a first-time home buyer, I guess you're working with, it's approved for VA loan. Are you able to unmute yourself and maybe talk about what area, or a little bit more detail on that? And maybe mention your contact info verbally also? Is there a way you could do that, Tiffany?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Hi. So my cell phone number is 636-299-0085. My email address is tbarnhart, BARNHART, Homes, HOMES, @gmail.com. And I currently have a first-time home buyer with a VA loan up to 150, looking for a 2 or 3 bedroom house, fairly open to location. Anything in St. Charles County, Florissant area, or going towards South County, Festus out that way is still workable. So they're pretty flexible on the location. Those are the areas that they've been looking. If anyone has anything that would work for a VA loan in that price range, please reach out. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Maybe somebody's got one of their rentals are ready to sell, or finishing up a rehab. You got Tiffany's got a buyer, a VA approved buyer. So good. And hopefully you can find a match for you.
Okay, we also got, looks like Carrie Green.
Yeah, I was just looking
looking
at
for a
too.
250 unit apartment complex in Dallas or Houston. Are you able to unmute yourself, Carrie, and tell us a little bit more detail and give us some contact information?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Yes, my name's Carrie Green. I have been in the multifamily world for a couple of decades, embarrassed to say, but I've teamed up with an investor. We've started a management company where we're gonna manage our own deals. So right now we're just looking, we'd like 250 in the Dallas, Houston area, anywhere in between there. My contact information is 281-384-6784. And then my email address is Carrie, CARRIE, at sisterspropertymgt.com. And I'd appreciate anyone's help if you hear of anything, or we're ready to go.
Okay.
Thank you, Carrie. Could you also type that in the chat information, the chat section of ours also? That'd be very helpful. And we'll be happy to pass it along. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Here you being here.
Okay. Anybody else? Two folks on here from Texas today. So. Anybody else got anything to share? Well, if not, hoping to see as many as possible at week from Saturday, April 29th. Over at the Shriners. You can go ahead and register, STLREIA.com. You find a link to register. You can pay with a credit card. It's only $99 for our current members and $149 for the day for non-members. You're welcome to, non-members are welcome to come too. So
yeah, and that, Lloyd, you gotta be more excited about that. That is a really, really great book to get everybody on here. If they don't already have that book that you get at the class, if it's the same one that I'm thinking of from when I went before with that, you got to go to that. That is really an awesome day to learn a lot of stuff about real estate in one location, one time, and have it in a book, guys. So I really highly encourage anybody on here, if they haven't been to it, to go to that. It's very, very useful what John is putting together for everybody.
Yeah, we do have a great, John made a great updated version of the book for specifically for this this session. So yeah, thank you. I forgot to mention the workbook. We just got them off the press today. I think they're supposed to be picked up. So so a great book, a whole day of great information, a chance to network with some of our members and other folks that are going to be speaking, and have some lunch, coffee. Be a great day. Looking forward to it. John, do you have anything else to add?
There are a lot of good takeaways from today. I
Yeah.
appreciate everybody being on. I appreciate everybody participating. There's a lot of stuff to put together here. I will have this up by the replay by midnight tonight, so be sure to watch that, because I know I go back and watch them all even before I put it up, because I can't take notes quick enough. But there's a lot of good things. I appreciate everybody networking every week with us here. There's a lot of things we pick up. It's great to watch the replays, but it's really good to be here in person, live with us also. We're not on location, but we are in our own way. So there's a lot of good people. Everybody comes from a good place here. And I just really do appreciate y'all. So if you need anything, you can always reach out to me or Lloyd. If you ever want to get a hold of me, the easiest way probably is just go to link2john.com. It's link number 2, JOHN.com. And all my contact information is on there. We'll have I'll put a couple of these links. I know there was too much for us to all write down, but I'll put it in the notes section on YouTube today. So when you go back to watch the replay, if you want to look at the information on there, it'll have some of this. I don't personally put your contact information on there. That's why I ask you to do it verbally, because that's like, I don't give out your business cards, and I've said that before, but we do want, any kind of information you want to give out, feel free to do so, and we will pass that along. So anything else, feel free to reach out to me. If you can make it next Saturday, that's great. If not, we will see you next Friday. So thank you all.
Hey,